Parshas Bamidbar. This week's Parsha begins with a census of the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, according to their Shavatim, according to their tribes. And then there's a separate discussion about the role of the Leviim. The Leviim are the adult males of the tribe of Levi, and they're the ones who assist. There's the support staff in either the Mishkan, which was the mobile sanctuary, or ultimately the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, the fixed temple in Jerusalem. May it be speedily rebuilt in our days. So the Torah, after saying that the Leviim are appointed, the Torah quotes a description, a dialogue, if you will, or a soliloquy by Hashem to Moshe. This is in, we're talking about Psukim Yud Aleph through Yud Gimel in Per Gimel. That's 3:11 through 13. Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Lemor. Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, Vani, and I, Hine lokachti es haLevim mitoch bnei Israel, tachas kol bechor petarechem bnei Israel. I have taken to me the Levites from the children of Israel in the place of every firstborn in the Bnei Israel, in the children of Israel. And the Leviim will be for me. In other words, this is a permanent appointment. Next verse, this is Yud Gimel 13. Ki li kol bechor, and this is what I'd like to focus on, because every firstborn is mine. Biyom hakosi kol bechor be'eretz Mitzrayim. On the day that I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, hikdashti li kol bechor b'Yisrael. I sanctified to me, I designated to me, says God, every firstborn among the children of Israel. Me adam ad behema, from man to animal, domestic animal. Li yihiyu ani Hashem. They will be mine. I am God. So in other words, there is a status of Levi and there's a status of Bechor. Now, what does it mean? I took the Leviim in place of the Bechor. So we know that at the time of the descent of the children of Israel into idol worship, following Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, the Bechorim, the firstborn, had served the Egel Azov. Or at least some served, some didn't oppose, but they didn't respond. They didn't desist from the service, and they didn't respond to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Moses, when he said, Mila Hashem Elai, whoever is dedicated to God, come to me. In other words, originally, the divine plan was that the Bechorim were to perform the service in the Mikdash. And according to some Meforshim, until things got settled, there was some service by the Bechorim, not necessarily in the Beis HaMikdash, but in bringing Karbonos. In other words, they were the spiritual leaders. Okay. But they blew it. They betrayed their role as spiritual leaders when it came time for the deciding moment at the golden calf, and God said, forget it. It's only the Leviim who demonstrated their loyalty. They will be the permanent servants in the Beis HaMikdash. The Bechorim lose that status. However, as Rav Hirsch points out, and it is pretty evident from the verses, the nature of the Bechor doesn't change. So the concept of Bechor is multidimensional. There are many aspects to it. One of them is to serve as the supporting staff to the Kohanim. That didn't happen. So, and maybe even to serve independent of the Kohanim. It's not entirely clear, but they were to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. They lost that opportunity, but they still retained their Kedusha. Now, what is the nature of Bechor? What is so special about a Bechor? Well, there are many opinions about this. When my first son was born, my oldest was born, I called my Rabbi, Rav Aaron Soloveitchik, to share the good news. And the Rebbitzin Ella Soloveitchik, Zichron Uvacha, answered the phone. And she wished me a mazel tov, and then she offered, you know why a Bechor gets Pishnayim? A Bechor, in the laws of inheritance, is deemed to be the equivalent of 2 children, not 1. So if there are 5 sons in a family, the Bechor, it's considered as though there are 6. The Bechor gets portions 1 and 2, and the rest are split among the remaining 4 sons. So why does he get Pishnayim? Why does he get a double portion? So the Rebbitzin told me because it's compensation to the Bechor, because he has to train his parents to be parents. And then she said, here's the Rosh Shiva, here's Rabbi Soloveitchik. So I spoke to my Rebbe, and he said, do you know why a Bechor gets Pishnayim? Because a father wants to typically live out his frustrated dreams, fulfill his frustrated dreams through his son. And his son teaches him that it's not possible. So he gets the equivalent of combat pay. That's my addition. He didn't say combat pay. That's my addition. I later read the opinion of Rabbi Yasher Ber Soloveitchik, who is Rav Aaron's oldest brother, who said that a Bechor is uniquely positioned in the family. He's kind of in between the parents and the children, in that he is, in some ways, able to transmit the parents' values to his own siblings more effectively than his parents can. And so he's something of a spiritual leader in the family for the transmission of values. Now, Rav Hirsch says that there's this notion of first, and the Bechor, HaKadosh Baruch Hu refers to the children of Israel. When he charges Moshe to go to Paro, he says, B'ni Bechori Yisrael. The children of Israel are my firstborn son. Now, what does that mean? So Rav Hirsch says that because we were the first to recognize God, we brought this notion of one God, recognizing one God, into the world, and the world was saturated with avodah zarah, with worship of idols and paganism at the time. And it was the children of Israel who introduced this concept of what we call monotheism, of there being one God who's in charge. The Nitziv comments that a Bechor, the oldest, let's say a Bechor, the oldest son of a king, so he serves as the crown prince. He serves as the assistant to the ruler. Now, he's the successor. We're not going to succeed the Almighty, but we are the assistants, if you will, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the opinion of the Nitziv. Rav David Tzvi Hoffman says something similar, a little bit more detailed, and he says that it is Ritzon Hashem l'chanech es yeser bonov al yidei ben bechor zeh. It is the Almighty's desire to train the rest of his children, meaning mankind, through this bechor, this firstborn, if you will. So it's the obligation of God's firstborn to be the spiritual leader of the rest of humanity. Now, the Meshech Chochma says that the Bechor, as we go back to this notion of Pishnayim, of getting a double portion, it's compensation to him or acknowledgement to him in that he made his father a father. That's what the Bechor does. And Rav Hirsch says that the transfer of the privilege to serve in the Mikdash that had been the provenance of the Bechorim, the transfer to the Leviim does not end the special status of Bechor. It ends one aspect of the manifestation of the status, but the status remains. And that's evident in the verses. The first verse that we quoted, or actually the second, that is Pasuk Yud Beis, number 12, says, V'hoyu li ha-Leviim, the Leviim will be mine in perpetuity. But there's a similar statement about Bechor Adam and Bechor Behema, the firstborn of a man and firstborn of animal, li yihiyu, they will be mine. And that's also the implication is that this status doesn't end. As a matter of fact, we know that the Bechor, whether man or animal, must be redeemed. And there's the process is called Pidyon Haben. In the Pidyon Haben, the father gives a Kohen, representative of Kadosh, of sanctity, gives the Kohen 5 shekel. That there's an obligation to give 5 shekel of silver to the Kohen to redeem the Bechor, because otherwise he would not be able to function ordinarily, because he has this aspect of Kedusha, and we recognize that and allow him to operate normally outside of the Mikdash by this act of redemption. So what does this mean? Ki li bechor b'yom hakosi, that on the day that I smote the firstborn of Egypt, I sanctified firstborn of Israel, man and beast. How does that work? So, first of all, the smiting of the firstborn of Egypt is, according to many commentaries, and it's implicit in the verse as well, when Hashem charges Moshe to say this, he says, Shalach es b'ni, send out my son, meaning Israel, v'yavdeni, and he will serve me, v'atma'in l'shalcho, and you will, or if you will, refuse, hinei anochi horeges bincha b'chorecha, so I will kill your firstborn. In other words, there is a correspondence between the treatment of God's firstborn, as Hashem describes us, and the treatment of the Egyptians' firstborn. What is this notion of on the day that the Almighty killed the Bechorim of the Egyptians, so I sanctified the Bechor of Israel? So among the Meforshim, there's an opinion that this is a constant reminder. In other words, it's an amazing miracle that God killed the firstborn. First of all, the Gemara in Bava Metzia says that the Almighty was able to determine who is a firstborn. It's not always clear. Well, it may be clearer that there's a firstborn of a woman. May not be clear who's the firstborn of a man, but every firstborn got it in Egypt. Not just Peterechem, not just the first issue of a woman, but the first issue of man also got it. When we go through the process of recognizing the status of a Bechor, and as we mentioned, the nature of the Bechor is multidimensional, but when we recognize the Kedusha, the sanctity of the Bechor, whether man or animal, what we're doing is we're raising anew and anew and anew and anew this notion that God intervenes in history and God protects us. And despite the travails that may come to us, God is there and God ultimately redeems us. We have many messages. Writ large, it's Zecher L'Tzias Mitzrayim. We have lots of things that are a memory of the exodus of Egypt, and one of them is our recognition of the status of the Bechor as a reminder of God's great miracles in protecting us, and may we see them writ large in our day. Have a good Shabbos.